In the winter of 1942, on a narrow, dark street in the German capital of Berlin, where the scent of fear was stronger than the smell of gunpowder, Isaac Levy woke to the sound of a violent knock on his door. It was not a routine inspection. It was a silent declaration that his life might end in that very moment. In those terrifying seconds, Isaac did not think about escaping. He did not think about gold, nor did he even turn to say goodbye to his family. His eyes moved directly toward one single thing, a small notebook lying on the table. To anyone else, it looked completely ordinary. But in reality, it was a secret map to immense wealth and a living record of centuries of survival. Scattered names, coded numbers, and distant locations. A debt in Zurich not yet settled, a mysterious partner in Istanbul, and a massive investment in New York. When the Nazi soldiers stormed in, they found no gold and no cash. What they failed to understand was that the man standing before them was part of a complex historical network that existed beyond the traditional concept of wealth. In economic history, the most dangerous forms of wealth are those that move in absolute silence. Isaac's story is not just an isolated incident. It is the culmination of a long historical path of Jewish involvement in finance, a path that did not begin with a desire for control, but with the harsh reality of exclusion. In medieval Europe, the game of money was not open to everyone. The Church forbade Christians from lending money with interest, while European laws simultaneously prevented Jews from owning agricultural land or joining craft guilds. When an entire community is expelled and denied access to basic means of livelihood, it does not simply vanish. It searches for another path to survive. And so, Jews found themselves pushed into specific fields that did not depend on what you physically possessed, but on your ability to move: trade, financial intermediation, and risk management. This was not a luxury choice. It was a forced adaptation to a reality imposed upon them. Over time, and due to the diaspora that spread them across different parts of the world, they developed a unique advantage: a cross-border network of trust. In a world without the internet or digital transfers, the familial and religious ties between Jews in Amsterdam, Venice, Istanbul, and Frankfurt functioned as the first financial internet in history. Whoever knew prices first, received information faster, and had trusted connections in distant cities held the upper hand. Thus, money in their hands transformed from static wealth into a flowing current of energy that never stopped. By the 18th century, major Jewish financial families began to emerge as central nodes within these networks. Among them was the Rothschild family, which rose from the Jewish quarter of Frankfurt. Their strength did not initially lie in the size of their wealth, but in the brilliance of how they managed it. By distributing family members across London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, they created the first global system of risk diversification. If one market collapsed, another compensated. If war broke out in one country, capital quietly moved to a safer one. This idea transformed money from being tied to a place into being tied to a network. Then came the 19th century, along with massive waves of European migration to America, driven by persecution and the search for new opportunities. Jewish migrants carried with them these networks and the accumulated expertise of centuries into a rapidly expanding and open American economy. New York soon became the heart of global finance, shaped in part by this remarkable integration. They helped build major financial empires such as Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, and other institutions founded by European Jews. These institutions were not designed to operate in isolation. They became part of a vast system intertwined with governments and central banks, including the Federal Reserve. Today, the global economy depends heavily on these cross-border financial flows. But imagine, for a moment, a frightening scenario. What if a portion of these networks suddenly disappeared? Billions of dollars in flows would halt, liquidity would dry up, markets would collapse, and companies would go bankrupt, not because money itself vanished, but because the arteries that move it were cut. The modern economy does not care who owns the money, it cares who controls its movement. Now, return to that cold room in Berlin to understand that Isaac Levy's story and his small notebook was not merely a personal attempt to survive, it was a historical lesson. Jewish wealth was never rooted in gold that could be confiscated, but in networks, relationships, and the ability to move capital. Survival throughout history has never belonged to the physically strongest, but to those who understand how the game moves, because those who grasp the mechanics of movement can endure, even when the entire world burns.